This is Track Dog, and we're back with another recording of 1846. There's been a little bit of delay in getting out this episode as a result of the holiday, and I also made a full recording yesterday that ended up recording a blank screen by accident, so I apologize for the delay. You may also notice that the sound is a little bit different. We got a new headset, so hopefully that will be improved quality. With all that said, let's jump right in. We'll start with D-Star. He is a choice of the tunnel blasting company, the mail contract, and Big Four. So not the best privates. Maybe looking to take the Big Four or pass here, and we'll see when he comes back around. Count von Blucher. He has Steamboat, Michigan Southern, Chicago Western, and Little Miami Lakeshore Line. So some good options here. May look to pick up Michigan Southern, Chicago and Western. Um, We'll see what he decides. Batsman has mail contract, and it looks like Count Van Blucher did not take the Michigan Southern since it's still available. JRFK, I'll have to think of a better name for him, maybe JR, has Lakeshore Line, Chicago Western, Michigan Southern. So a lot of those good privates that we were talking about haven't been taken. It looks like maybe people are snapping up these passes early on. D-Star. He did take a pass the first time. He had bad options, as I recall, so was hoping things would come back around a little bit better. He does now have options with the Lakeshore line, which is a pretty good private. Um, and Little Miami, operating further south, can also be useful. Count von Blucher, so he took Steamboat and now has the option of getting Michigan Southern as well. Um, or Big Four. The Steamboat Company, I don't know how well that synergizes with the little or minor companies. So not sure what he's going to pick there. We'll have to see. Batsman, he took a pass as well and now has the Michigan Southern. So it looks like players are not valuing this minor company, which is, I think, a little bit unusual. This is usually a pretty appreciated private to have. And JR, he took the Chicago and Western in the first round. So what is he looking to get now? Maybe Michigan Southern. All the other companies, all the other players have been passing on this, which is a little bit surprising. He has priority, so he's going to have to, well, he'll have the ability of picking his company first. With the teleport of the Chicago and Western, I'm not sure if he's super motivated to get the Michigan Southern. It is a pretty expensive private. Um, so maybe just taking that last pass or a cheaper private like Big Four, um, or tunnel blasting. Looks like D-Star picked up the Lakeshore line and has no passes available to him. So he will have to pick up a more expensive private now. I think this is unusual that both of the minor companies are left to the last round like this. We'll see what he takes. Count von Blucher, he's taken Little Miami and Steamboat. And we'll be on the hook for one more private here. Does he look towards the Big Four and just take a approach to the southern half of the map? Looks like he actually took the tunnel blasting, okay. And Batsman has passed this whole time, so we'll probably take Big Four here. I don't imagine he wants the mail contract. Yeah, and then we'll see the mail contract being the last one. So JR could buy this, but we may see him pass and give it to another player a little bit cheaper. Looks like he does pass. D-Star, I don't imagine he wants this. And it drops down again. Count von Blucher has spent a fair amount on privates already. The mail contract has been discounted, but I think he'll pass as well. He actually does take it. Okay. So Count von Blucher spent a lot of money in the private auction or private draft, and D-Star is only shortly or closely behind him. JR spent the least with just one private and has priority. So what is he going to be looking to take? Has a lot of money to float this company. He takes the NYC. So NYC is a good company, and he has the teleport, so he can just lay a little loop into Cleveland and eventually teleport into Chicago. No rush to head west. Batsman, he's going to take the Ick, and he has the Big Four, so some nice synergy there. Pars are pretty high. will have a large treasury in the company early on as a result. Count von Blucher, he is going to take the GT. He spent a ton of money on his privates, so he didn't have the option of parring much higher than he did. He maxed that out. I don't know what the synergy for the GT with his privates are. Is he hoping to head south with this company? Maybe just buying privates to have them. He does have some options with the steamboat, so we'll see what he wants to do there. D-Star, he takes the Erie. So the Erie and the NYC are going to be kind of fighting for track. The Erie will be operating first in the first operating round, and then after the NYC after that. So he's going to be able to get into Cleveland before the NYC does, which is a little bit unfortunate for JR. He's going to buy his own treasury, and so will Batsman. D-Star does have one share left to buy and buys an Erie. Does JR buy a fourth NYC here? Instead investing in the IC. Okay, so everybody's out of money, and it looks like Batsman will have priority. So we're going to see Count von Blucher. Looks like he has, I see, so he's just doing his steamboat. And he assigned it to, let me turn on the hex coordinates. So to Toledo. Operation of the Michigan and Southern. Not owned by the same player as the Grand Trunk, so maybe not looking to really help him out with any helpful track, but we'll see. He's going to rush down into Toledo. D-Star is running the Erie, so that track may eventually help him with his other company as well. Needs to be a little bit careful that the New York company doesn't beat him to it. Big Four. This is owned by Batsman, who's running the IC, so friendly track almost certainly, laying towards Terre Haute. Erie's first operation, he issues and is probably going to be racing towards Cleveland if I had to guess. Instead, linking up with New York. This does still block New York from running into Cleveland with multiple trains, though, so still painful. And is he going to buy just 1-2 train, or does he buy a couple here? He buys 2, okay. New York now probably still heading down to Cleveland. And he's going to be looking to link up to Toledo. He will operate before D-Star in the next operating round, so does have a chance of getting into Detroit or Toledo before the Erie does. He issues, and looks like he doesn't place a token. Going to be looking to buy a couple of 2 trains here. And he buys 3. Does still have token money, so I imagine he's going to be dropping a token maybe in Detroit. We'll see if that's possible. GT might have something to say about that. IC, he is going to be operating down south. Looks like he's heading straight to St. Louis, and he will be able to buy into the green trains if he wants. He does. He actually buys 2 of the green trains. He does have that extra beefy treasury as a result of the special ability of the IC, so will be running quite well early in the game. GT, last company to operate, and he's going to issue 2 shares. Where is he looking to head now? Does he link up with Cleveland? Just laying the 1 track for now, and he will be able to buy some of these green trains as well. Probably buys 2. Just buys 1 for now. He also didn't drop any tokens. Count von Blucher, he is going to be just reassigning the steamboat and keeps it in Toledo. Michigan Southern, probably the last operation for this company if I had to guess. Where is he going? He's going to just upgrade Toledo. And now the second minor company, is he going to look to head up to Chicago? Instead heading to, looks like just Cincinnati. And the IC now with 3 trains probably buys in the big 4 and is going to start running quite well. He does buy the big 4, gets in that token as a result, and now we'll have the ability to lay some track. And it's going to lay towards Cincinnati and upgrade it. So he's going to run for, looks like 180. And he just pays out for a double jump. He didn't buy any more trains, correct? Yeah. GT, does he look to link up with Cleveland here? Just going to token and then link up. Okay. So New York should be able to get into Toledo as well and block the Erie player. He runs for 190 with a single train. That's pretty good. And he pays that out as well for the double jump. Is he buying in his privates? Yes. So he's going to have a lot of cash into the next stock round. NYC now, imagine we'll be seeing him starting to head west from Toledo, but could also just upgrade to increase his runs a little bit. Going to upgrade Erie. This also helps the Erie company, of course. And he tokens in Detroit. Interesting. So now he's also buying in his privates, and he secures his token in Chicago and runs his 3 trains. So why would you token in Detroit instead of Toledo? Trying to understand the logic here. The Z tiles, I believe, open up to 3 holes, so that token's less valuable. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. This leaves the Erie the ability to token to Toledo and cut his run in half. We'll have to think about that as the game goes on. So he runs for 200. I believe that's the most we've seen. He's going to double jump. And now the Erie's operation. So does he just upgrade Cleveland and then token Toledo? I see. So he had the Michigan Southern. So he's going to get the other token in Detroit. Okay. And then he still has the option of tokening somewhere else as well. So still just buying in privates. He upgrades Cleveland and does token in Toledo. So I think that we may see the New York player live to regret that token in Detroit. I'm not sure that that gets him a whole lot. Going to run his 2 trains for 150 is enough. Actually, it's not enough for a double jump. Oh, sorry, it was. He had double jumps when I looked at his value. Batsman now, he has the least cash in the game and is running the IC. Could just look to buy some shares there. The company's going to be running pretty well. And also has 2 green trains, so is not on the hook for these 2 trains rusting to the same extent that the other companies are. He does buy his own company. Count, on the other hand, is leading with cash, is going to be hoovering up a bunch of well-paying shares. Does he look to buy the cheaper shares, or does he buy his own GT? May look towards the New York. Don't think that we're going to be seeing one of these permanent trains come out this set of operating rounds. At least that's my prediction. So maybe safe to invest there. He instead is going to clear the market of his GT shares. And we see another IC being bought. A GT coming out of the treasury. And Count has cleared his market, so it won't be falling back unless someone does something about it. Looks like D-Star is happy to be on the GT train. And JR does sell out of the GT. What is he going to buy instead? Looks like he is also selling out of the IC, so just making sure shares are in the market, and now probably looking towards his own NYC, hoping to clear the market there. He has exactly enough cash to do it. Batsman passes. Count, does he buy his? He can't afford the GT share, so he's going to be left with a New York or a Erie share. And he buys a New York out of the treasury. So D-Star also selling the GT. And what does he look to buy? He is going to buy an IC. And JR just going to max out on NYC shares. Not going to be able to guarantee that one doesn't end up in the market as a result of Count, though. So it looks like Count is going to just be happy to hold the share, and Batsman is going to maintain priority. So into the next operating round, we'll see if my prediction that the brown trains don't come out proves correct. The IC does have a lot of money, but it is train locked. And also it has two of the green trains. So I don't know that it's going to be super eager to buy more if someone else, well, basically he's train locked until brown, so he's not going to be able to contribute to that. The GT could buy another green train right now, and so could the NYC. They wouldn't have to issue or withhold to do it. Erie is pretty close, and in OR 2.2 may look to do something like that. So we'll see. Ick, he is going to be tokening in Cincinnati, and he's getting a second run into Indianapolis, so just looking to double tap Cincinnati, it looks like. He redeems a share, and he's going to run all four of his trains for 280. GT now is upgrading his home tile and has a single train, but has been tokened out of Detroit, at least temporarily. So it's going to be forced to run from Toledo instead, it looks like. Which he does. Hitting for 210, he buys a second green train. This does make it more likely that someone will buy into the permanent trains. Still going to be a kind of a tall order. Another green train has to go, and then they would have to issue pretty heavily to afford one of these brown trains. So I still feel pretty good that we're not going to see that this operating round. NYC, does he start heading west now? He's going to be looking to link up with the IC. And does he drop a token anywhere? Looks like he's just going to hold for now and just continue to run his two trains. Erie has pretty good track. Could look to block the GT player with this tile here, prevent him from, bypassing Detroit. That's not really a long-term priority though, because as we mentioned, Detroit opens up to 3 holes. So I don't know if it's worth really messing with him for that. Maybe just looking to head towards Chicago. Does need to be a little bit careful though, because there's 3 tile lays, so he's not going to be able to secure that token and may leave himself open to being sniped by the GT if he lays that track. He's going to redeem a share, and he doesn't lay any tokens or tracks, and just pays out. I love these situations where there's a little bit of a standoff, on laying a track, because whoever lays the first track is going to not be able to reap the reward. That happens in a lot of games, not just 1846, but it's always fun to see. So let's see, Ick now. He has linked up to Chicago, but is tokened out currently. May look to just upgrade F6 or E7 and get his own Chicago token. Instead, going to be heading down into Louisville and upgrading Chicago. So he can hit those tiles. He's going to optimize his run for now. I guess he's not really in too much competition for a Chicago token, so just looking to get some early money. And he's running pretty well for 390. It's going to be enough for, is that enough for a triple jump? It looks like it. But he's still in the restricted area of the map, so fair enough. GT probably looking to complete his loop around Detroit. Actually going to be bypassing it. That's a tile that doesn't exist in 1830 or 1830 style games at least. So wasn't expecting that, but nicely played. He's going to be able to start heading towards Chicago through there. The Erie player can also use that track though, so he needs to be a little bit careful. If he lays C11, it does potentially open up a token for the Erie player. Also the New York player. New York already has a token in Chicago though. All right, so this does let the Erie player lay D10 and D8 and sneak into Chicago if he's not careful. Running 2 trains now, and he pays it out. New York train locked. Are there any of the green trains left? There are not, so we're resting on the brink of the brown trains, but it's going to take someone withholding to bring them out probably, or floating a second company. New York, where is he looking to head? He could just lay some tragic track here and try and slow down the progress towards Chicago for the other companies. Instead, going to upgrade Terre Haute, just improving his runs, it looks like. He's running for 370, going to be enough for a double jump. Erie player, he issues shares. So is he looking to buy a brown train here? And he's going to be getting into Chicago. does leave the upgrade available for another player to get a token into Chicago, probably GT, since New York already has it. So turn order is going to be quite important in the next operating round to determine who gets this upgrade, because if New York or Erie get it, they could prevent GT from ever getting into Chicago. He does leave a token behind and runs his 3 trains for 220. We'll have to full withhold if he wants a permanent train here. Probably not worth it. He does. So he's going to buy the 4-6. That will mean that he has a secured east-west run, but withholding like that is pretty painful, especially when you own 70% of the company and the other player's 2 trains have already operated. It's not like you're getting an extra run of your 2s. Plus, you have 3 of the 2s yourself, so you're really hurting yourself with this withhold, I think. But regardless, I was wrong. We do see the Browns come out in OR2 and into the next stock round. So leading in net worth is JR, closely followed by Count Blucher. JR also has the most cash and has the most shares in the game. So we have an early leader, but his 2 trains are all going to be rusting, and he doesn't have a whole lot of treasury to find an easy replacement for them. We'll have to issue all of his shares probably. And then we are still looking to see operating order in order to determine who gets this upgrade on D8. So GT is pretty motivated to operate before the NYC or the Erie. And is that going to be possible? It is possible currently. I mean, currently he is operating first. But if he falls back and the other companies don't, NYC will operate first. Erie's out of contention for that upgrade. All right, so with that said, let's see what Batsman wants to do. He will buy his own IC. He's going to have a lot of company money, so we'll be able to easily afford a brown train out of pocket or out of his treasury. Count von Blucher, he's also buying an IC. May see him sell that and just have the GT fall back once. Everybody is eager to be on the IC train, and JR rounds us out. The IC is now sold out. Batsman now looking at cheaper shares. The NYC is probably not the most attractive company. You don't want to help it capitalize and fund its next train, and all those 2 trains are going to be rusting quite soon. So don't know that he's looking for that. May just buy an Erie, although Erie is in a similar position, to be frank. So let's see what he decides. He buys an NYC. I guess it's marginally better than the Erie. Count von Blucher is doing what we saw in the last stock round, just trying to cause companies to fall back. We'll see if JR wants to rescue the IC. And he's going to buy his GT from the market. He's kind of hoping that the GT does not fall back. But again, that's going to be a little bit out of his control probably. Another player selling out of the IC. So that company will be falling back, it looks like. And what does he buy here? He buys a GT and he buys it from the treasury. So he may be putting some shares into the market as well to guarantee the GT falls back. GT is fine with this, I think, as long as the NYC also falls back, which he does have the ability to influence because he owns a share already. JR is going to buy an IC from the market, but that company will be falling back because I don't think there's enough capital from these other players to prevent it. Batsman passing. Count von Blucher, does he look to pick up a Erie here? He's going to sell the NYC. So he has to make sure that one of these other players doesn't snap that up. JR is not going to be able to do it as he's already share locked. I don't know that D-Star is necessarily motivated to prevent it either. So it may be safe. He is sold out of 2 companies now, so needs to make sure he has somewhere to put his money, but that market share in the GT is probably his priority. D-Star sells an IC, and does he buy? Well, he might be looking to ensure that GT falls back. I'm not sure. Could also just buy that NYC share. Instead, going to buy his own Erie. He has left his options open, can still buy the NYC, but not going to be able to buy his GT. JR is also selling out of the IC, so it's funny, that company was the first to sell out. They gave it a ton of cash, and now they're all jumping ship. He buys a GT from the Treasury. Do we see him just manipulate things so that GT is going to fall back? If both of these companies fall back, operating order is unchanged. So not really a super high yield move for him to do that, but we'll see what he wants to try. Count von Blucher still with enough money for an Erie share, and he is going to buy one. D-Star also buying an Erie, and JR, is he just going to pass here? He sells a GT, so both of these companies can be falling back, but it's not going to alter who gets that upgrade we were emphasizing. And he's going to buy an Erie as well. Could actually buy 2 of these shares. And this will mean that Batsman will maintain priority. So well played to, I think, Count and the other players. There was some risk of, upsetting the balance in terms of who got that upgrade, but he was able to protect his market, or not really protect it, but ensure that the NYC would also fall back when he did. So as a result of everybody falling back, they're all still within the restricted area of the market. Um, I guess they would have been regardless, unless they had sold out and floated. IC, last runs of its 2 trains, and he is going to be redeeming some shares with all that cash the other players gave him. Still has money basically for a permanent train. And he's going to link up with Cleveland. Does he also token here? He passes the token for now, and I think with a payout, he will still have enough treasury shares to afford one of the brown trains without withholding, so pretty nice for him. He's going to pay out 520, so running really well, and does have enough money for a permanent train easily, and he buys the 5. I don't believe he will have an east-west run with that. And now that he is kind of opened the map up a little bit, does need to be a little bit cautious about losing out on his token in South Chicago. The GT player, if he gets blocked out of, well, he's going to get in here probably. So probably we'll see all 4 of these companies end up with tokens. I don't imagine that they're going to be able to prevent that. I guess if the GT player wanted to be really nasty, he could lay the upgrade on F6 and token in Chicago South, prevent the IC from doing that. And then the IC doesn't really have a way of responding very easily and getting into the eastern Chicago because he's tokened out at Toledo and Detroit. So he's not going to be able to lay this upgrade. That would be pretty nasty. Not guaranteed to work. Maybe one of the other players would help him out, but if I was playing this game, I might look towards that. Instead, just taking the safe move, going to get into Chicago and token that, I assume. So he actually doesn't token it. I guess he doesn't necessarily have to because the other players already have tokens in Chicago, but I don't know. I just like the security, the safety blanket of making sure that my token is secured. I guess he needs the cash though, worried that he's not going to be able to afford a brown train otherwise. So he's going to run for 460, and I think with that would have enough money to buy a permanent train even without a withhold or a half pay. He full pays, and he does buy a brown train. Are there any brown trains left? There's one. And the NYC does not have one. He is up in operating order. Unfortunately, he has less cash and less treasury shares, so he may actually have to half pay or full withhold in order to afford one. He's going to upgrade Chicago for himself. And he's running for 470. I don't think that, that definitely will not be enough without a withhold or at least a half pay. So he does a half pay and we'll be buying that last brown train. I think we'll probably see the game stall a little bit here. There probably will have to be another company floated in order to get into the brown trains. The other companies have really exhausted their treasuries, so it's going to be a little bit of time before we see the gray trains, I think. Erie, last run of his 2 trains. Again, he was responsible for rusting them in the first place, so a little bit of a pain point for him, but does have access to brown tiles. He's going to redeem a share. Upgrades Detroit, pretty expensive tile lay, and is running his 2 trains for the last time. Actually unable to secure an east-west run, it looks like. A little bit surprising, he has the 4-6 train. but he's going to be running for 540 and is nowhere near a second permanent train. Second operation of the IC, does he finally look towards Chicago here? Looks like he does, and he will secure his tokens. So all the existing companies have tokens in Chicago. There's no longer any competition until someone else floats, but it's going to be pretty hard for them to get towards that last remaining token. So GT may be able to hold on to it for a little bit and just threaten to lay it somewhere else. He has 3 trains. It's going to be running quite well and pays it out. GT also running 3 trains. Um, and he is issuing a share. I guess he just needed money for track lays and potentially his token. So he'll upgrade Detroit, and he tokens in Indianapolis. So he feels confident that that blockage in Toledo is going to protect the access he has to Chicago connections, and it's just going to make it a little bit harder for the New York player to get into his Chicago connection. That may come back to bite him if he's not able to protect his track and a new company floats. He's going to run his 3 trains for 780, just a massive run. He is really happy about the status quo right now. He is dreading when these gray trains come out and rust all of his non-permanent trains. But that means the other players are very motivated to make sure that exactly that happens. NYC running 2 trains has been unfortunately blocked out of his access to Chicago, at least from the east. And so because of the open token slot in Chicago, all the companies are going to be able to run through there, regardless of their connections, in the middle of the map. So that's a nice benefit for New York, trade-off for the GT player, basically. I'll just go back for a second and say that, if the GT was trying to play nasty, he had the opportunity of tokening here um, and being nasty in that respect. So I don't know. I don't like the Indianapolis token as much as I would have liked the Chicago token, I don't think. NYC half paying, probably looking towards picking up one of these gray trains in the near future. Erie, he is not laying any track and just running his single train, I should say. He should have an east-west run if he wants it, and he does. So he's running for 4 revenue centers and will be able to hit the most lucrative ones. Only running for 310, not the most impressive, and he full pays. So currently, JR and Count von Blucher are neck and neck for first in net worth. JR has a little bit of a lead in shares, and they have about the same amount of cash. Unfortunately for JR, he's going last in priority, so will not have a choice of his company if he was looking to float a second company here, and we'll have to defer that to the players ahead of him in operating order. Are any of the players very motivated to do that? So the 2 companies that are available are the PRR and the B&O. PRR does have some track available to it. The B&O would have a little bit of a slower start. Could hop into Cincinnati, but needs to make sure that I believe the gray trains erase that token. So it needs to be a little bit careful of that. So both of these companies I think are still viable, but need to float soon. And you basically need to make sure that you're operating first before the second company that floats. Otherwise, you may be just totally tokened out for the entire game. So, may see a new company float here. Let's see. Batsman just investing in the GT. This company is running super hot. And as we said, unless a company floats, we may see a stall here. So, pretty wise investment. Blucher is the one to float a company. He's going to take the PRR. So probably just looking to get into Cleveland and then down into Cincinnati, I would imagine. The IC is going to continue to sell here. And it looks like we'll just see one company floating most likely. So the IC has sold out. It does have enough cash for a permanent gray train now. And Count is just continuing to invest in the PRR. PRR is going to be operating pretty late in priority, or late in the operating order. Can't really affect the operating order of the GT and the IC, or at least not enough to ensure that it operates first. Um, so probably will be laying some friendly track with the GT for the PRR, would be my guess. NYC now being sold or bought. Erie might also sell out. Alternatively, Batsman may just be putting the share on the market because the Erie is not a very attractive company. It's probably the black sheep of these companies in terms of ability to afford a second permanent train. So I don't know that that's the most appealing share to buy. Count has fully capitalized the PRR, at least to his ability. GT is now sold out and will be floating up unless something changes. JR is continuing to invest in the Erie. A little bit confused by that decision. Um, Again, I don't think that company has much long-term potential for it. The rest of the players are content to pass. And it looks like, does Batman maintain priority? He's had priority a lot during this game as a result of JR doing some stock manipulating. Not really wrong to do that. I'm not criticizing that per se, just pointing out that the batsman has been the benefit of it, beneficiary. So probably we'll see a gray train come out right away, which is a little bit unfortunate for these other players, especially the GT. I think they're running two of the green trains, and they will not get an extra run of those trains as a result of this. If he does want to buy a gray train, I think that he cannot lay track here unless he wants to like half pay or full withhold. We'll see what he decides to do. Upgrading Cincinnati, and he's running for 570. He pays out, and unfortunately, as a result, is not able to buy the gray train. So let me just back up here for a second. He had 844 in company cash, um, so would have been able to buy a gray train. I think that's a missed opportunity. You have your closest opponent running two green trains. Why would you not rust them before they could operate? There is a soft rust, of course. They would operate once more, but you are denying them an extra run. That seems like an error. GT, he does have permanent train money as well, and is just short of the 7-8 train. Could do some shuffling with the PRR, but I imagine he wants to bring out a gray train. Oh, sorry. Was the IC train lot? It was. So that's why we don't see the permanent train coming out. That's something I missed. So apologies to Batsman. He had no opportunity to bring that out, actually. GT, he also is train locked. That's what made me realize that. He's going to be upgrading, laying some track for the PRR. It's funny that he has laid this token as he also laid this token, or track. And he's going to be running very well, so he's not really that eager for the gray trains to come out. Just living large with 790 PRR. First operation will have to issue to afford a train, but doesn't have to issue very much, just 2 shares to get the $300. Instead, it's going to issue pretty much fully, giving himself money for track and tokens as well as his train. And he immediately tokens in Cincinnati. That is a 3-hole city, so not the most valuable token, but at least securing his run. And he's going to be looking to bypass Indianapolis. He buys the first gray train. So the NYC and the Erie, were they running green trains? The NYC was. So he's kicking himself a little bit that that happened before he was able to run his train. I believe he had the opportunity to cause the PRR to fall back and prevent that. He could have just bought and sold one of the PRR shares at the end. So maybe regretting not taking that. Regardless, the gray tiles are now available. And he's going to issue a share, not laying any track, just running his east-west run. And does he withhold here for a second permanent train? He half pays, so going to have enough for the 6th train. which he buys. Erie now, will have to probably at least half pay here in order to get a train. Upgrading Chicago does have an east-west run, paying for 330 and probably withholding. Still not going to have enough money for the $800 train, I don't think. He just pays out. Second operating round now. IC, 2 trains are going to be rusting. Does have permanent train money, and he is looking to just bypass, it looks like Dayton, just make his run, east-west run, a little bit shorter. Interesting. So he's also bypassing Cincinnati, where he has a token here. He places a token in Erie. I don't know that that really hurts any of these companies. Were any of them running an east-west run through there? I don't think so. Maybe the GT. If that's the case, I think Count von Blucher is in the lead here, so could look to shake things up a little bit there. He's running for 600, and he actually half pays. He's still able to. No, it looks like that was a single jump as a result of the half pay, but he can't afford the more expensive 7-8 train now, which he will pick up. In GT, he is looks like going to be linking up with Indianapolis with a tile lay in the future. Actually, he's laying on D12 instead of F12. So maybe just keeping his options open. Alternatively, could be looking to block anybody from getting into this track here and laying a token. Not really sure what he's hoping to achieve there. He's running for 830. We'll have to half pay here, unfortunately, in order to afford a second permanent train. He full pays, so maybe he'll half pay next time when it's a lower revenue. He doesn't need much cash. NYC running 2 permanent trains. And does he have an east-west run? He certainly does in the north, but doesn't have a second one. Maybe looking to head towards St. Louis in the future. He's going to upgrade Dayton. He does have 2 tokens available, but doesn't have cash for them. And is running for 660. Erie. He is upgrading Detroit. And he also tokens in Cincinnati. So that is now blocked out. I don't think we'll be seeing the B&O float this game. Would be very hard for it to have meaningful runs. And I think that hurts the New York a little bit. The New York's tile or token in Chicago has ended up being not too useful, but the fact that GT did not token at all in Chicago does leave him a run. Erie running for 340, and he pays out. So maybe just stuck with a single permanent train. I think that's a recipe for a loss for that player. PRR is running a nice train. Does it have a run? Could be looking to head to St. Louis. And looks like he's got access there. So we'll have an east-west run. It's not going to be the most important or best run because he's incorporating some unupgraded cities and also has 2 10-value cities. But it's better than nothing. And it's 340, so exactly the same as what Erie is running. But this company has a little more potential in terms of still having treasury shares and having a fellow company in the GT to shuffle around and potentially get a second permanent train. He full pays. He's the sole investor in the company, so that makes sense. Into the next stock round, there is $1,000 in the bank, so this will be the last operating round coming up. All the players should be able to reach their cert limits. Count von Blucher, being the president of 2 companies, will have a slight lead there. He is quite far ahead in terms of net worth. His nearest competitor is JR. JR is pretty heavily invested in the Erie, which I think is going to end up hurting him. So Count von Blucher probably feeling pretty secure. It's interesting that he was able to get so far ahead, even though he started a company last operating round, so he didn't have a run for half of that operating round. But regardless, is in a pretty commanding lead here. We'll see how players want to kind of alter their portfolios. Unfortunately for JR, there's most of the shares are already sold out, so he's not going to be able to fully sell out of the Erie and hope to reach his cert limit. So just kind of a poor decision to invest so heavily in the Erie probably is going to cost him the game. NYC being bought, probably we'll just see everybody buy the NYC followed by the PRR. Count von Blucher, happy that he is operating so early in priority, is able to secure that last NYC share, and now there's only PRR shares available. I don't think we'll see the B&O float. So after saying that, we do see the B&O float. I guess Batsman was a little bit worried that he wasn't going to be able to reach his cert limit. Unfortunately for him, the B&O shares are not going to pay out for the first operating round or first set of this operating round, and it's not going to have a very good run. So I think that's not going to give him the game, and I would not like to see the other players invest in this company. Count von Blucher, one share away from reaching his cert limit. D-Star and JR is passing as he's actually met his cert limit, which is unfortunate for him because it means that Count von Blucher and D-Star will both be able to buy paying PRR shares rather than the B&O. Batsmen continue to invest in the B&O, and the PR sells out expected. So probably we'll see Batsman just buy another share in the B&O and then everybody pass. Okay, so this means that finally someone other than Batsman has priority. Looks like Count von Blucher. But again, I expect this to be the last set of the game, so I don't think that's relevant. GT, all the companies floated up except for the B&O. GT operating first and is going to be running not super well, just with a single 5 train. May look to see him half pay and buy a second permanent train here. I don't know if it's worth it though, because I think if he doesn't half pay and buy a train, he probably will, end the game ahead. So I don't know that he really wants to extend the game or try to extend the game. Let's see. So he's going to be looking to get into St. Louis himself, it looks like. And he runs for 420. He does half pay, and he will be buying a permanent train as a result. But I don't know that's enough to extend the life of this game. There's $3,000 in the market, and there's, 7 more operations? No, more than that. There's 5 companies to operate now, and then 6, so 11 more operations. I think we will still see the bank break. Ick, he is upgrading Cleveland, just improving his run a little bit. And he does not token anywhere. He's out of tokens. So does he have 2 east-west runs? I think he does. So he's going to be running very well. This is great for Batsman, and the leader, Count von Blucher, has 0 shares in this company. So this may be a path for him to bypass that. He's running for 660, not the most impressive run, but it is. So does he not have 2 east-west runs? He does, doesn't he? I guess he is unable to get past Toledo into Windsor. So unfortunately, only able to hit the east-west one time. I see. So that's going to limit his run. New York City, he looks like been tokened out of somewhere, probably Cincinnati, and is not going to be reaching Louisville as a result. He's not placing any track, doesn't have the cash to do so without withholding, and he pays for 610. Erie, this company is kind of dead in the water. Still just paying for 340, it looks like. And the PRR does have a bunch of cash. Does have a 7-8 run available to it. So what does he look to do? He's upgrading Wheeling. Does he leave a token there? Is he looking to open up a second east-west run? He only has 1 western connection, so I don't know that that's super high priority for him. Maybe he could get a second run with the GT. GT has 2 trains, so maybe that's what he's hoping to do. But clearly not because he tokens there. And also going to upgrade Columbus. So not really sure what he's doing there. Maybe just improving his run by getting out of Homewood. That might be it. So running for 370 instead of 340, I see. So he just got an extra 30 bucks to his run. B&O last company to operate in this set, and he's going to have to issue to afford a train. Unfortunately, as we commented on before, the B&O has really been tokened out of most of these important centers, so going to have a pretty anemic run. He is going to look to get into Terre Haute, it looks like. Probably eventually hoping to get into St. Louis. And he buys a permanent train. So the market has $1,900 in it. I think we will still see it break because I don't think we're going to see any more train purchases, and we'll have an extra company operating. So if we look at the spreadsheet, Count is $600 ahead of his, actually, sorry, JR is his nearest competitor, and he is a few bucks ahead of him. So well played to him. He ran for about $400 more in this set. And why is that the case? The NYC is running for 610 and the GT withheld. So that's why. Is that withhold gonna be enough to cost GT the game? Why did GT withhold there? I see he's running 2 permanent trains now. So well played to him. I don't. I think that he will be able to run high enough that he will win the game now. But made it a little bit close. So he has a east-west run through Chicago and does not have a second east-west run, I don't believe, through St. Louis, unless he's able to run through the north here, which he should be able to do. So he should be able to hit both Sarnia and Windsor for his 2 east-west runs. And it looks like that's what we'll see. So he's going to run for 830. That's probably enough to give him the game. Ick, he is also running 2 permanent trains, but only has 1 east-west run, it looks like. Yes, because his only axis is in Buffalo, and he's only going to be able to run train out of there. So probably just laying track to lay track. I don't think that really helps him in any way. Sorry, so he is also running the B&O, so that puts the B&O within range of St. Louis for his east-west run. NYC, this player was close behind, or just slightly ahead of Count von Blucher, but I think that monster run from the GT is going to put the game out of reach for JR. So he runs again for 640. Bank is broken. Erie just going to be running for that 340 again. And the PRR does have an east-west run. Made it a little bit better last time. Can he improve on it further? So it looks like he's just improved by 10 bucks. I think he's already won the game, so I don't know that it matters that much. B&O, last company to operate, will probably be linking up with the St. Louis and running his first and only route. He is upgrading F14. Does he lay H2? He does. Okay, redeeming a share, really no purpose there, just pulling levers to pull levers, and runs for 350. So it does manage to run for more than D-Star, and I imagine that we will see Count von Blucher take this game now. He does. Pretty narrow victory, about $200 over JR. And I think the difference maker there is just that JR ended up with the shares in the Erie as opposed to the better shares in the GT that the Count von Blucher was running so well. Count did withhold for a second permanent train. That made it a little bit closer. I don't think that was necessary to win the game for him, but that's the decision he made, and it didn't affect the outcome. So just some style points, I think. Well played to Count, and we will be back with additional commentary in the future. Thanks for listening.